Yes, sir. Sir, very happy afternoon to all. So today we are going to start a new chapter called as Cost Accounting System. This is basically an accounts chapter. When you love accounts, when you like accounts, this chapter is a superb chapter. Cost Accounting System. Actually, when you see in costing in a factory, lot of expense will be incurring. Like material will be consumed, labor we will pay wages, current bill will come, or royalty we will pay, which is there for the production. So basically a cost sheet. In a factory, we have to incur the direct material consumed, direct labor and direct expenses. You will get the prime cost. This is the primary cost which we will be incurring to manufacture a product. Without incurring this cost, we can't manufacture a product. That is why this cost is called as prime cost. Where I will incur the prime cost? In the factory. So inside that factory, I will be incurring the overhead called as factory overhead. Generally in our subject costing, overhead means indirect expenses. Overhead means indirect expenses. Inside this factory overhead, we will be having variable overhead and fixed overhead. We will be having variable overhead and fixed overhead. So direct material plus direct labor plus direct expense will give you prime cost. At factory overhead, you will be getting gross factory cost. Inside the factory only we will manufacture. So whatever units we started to manufacture, we can't complete the production in that particular period of production itself. That particular period may be for 1 day or 1 week or 1 month or 6 months or 1 year, as the case may be. So we will be having WIP. So add opening stock of WIP less closing stock of WIP. So we have to do WIP adjustment. Then we will be getting, my dear lovable students, net factory cost. Net factory cost. To this net factory cost, we will add administration overhead related to production. Administration overhead related to production. You will get the cost of production. This is what happening in the factory or inside the factory. This is what our manufacturing cost is all about. So if you want to manufacture a product, you have to incur the direct material consumed. To that direct material consumed, we have to add the direct labor. Then we have to incur the direct expenses. We will get the what cost? Prime cost. To that prime cost, we have to add the factory overhead. We will get the gross factory cost. Add opening stock of WIP, less closing stock of WIP, we will get the net factory cost. Add administration overhead related to production, we will get the. To this cost of production, my dear lovable students, whatever cost of production of the current year, we will add opening stock of finished goods. Opening stock of, I will get the COGAS, cost of goods available for sale. Cost of goods available for sale. Inside this COGAS, both opening stock and current year production will be there. Out of this COGAS, we can't sell 100%. That is practically impossible. So we have to reduce the closing stock of finished goods. Closing stock of finished goods. That means, my dear lovable students, from the COGAS, cost of goods available for sale, if you reduce the closing stock of finished goods, you will get the cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold. To that cost of goods sold, we have to add general administration overhead. This is not related to production. Sir, we have to add selling and distribution overhead. Selling and distribution overhead. then you will be getting cost of sales. You will be getting to that cost of sales. If you add profit, you will be getting the sales. That's what the most important part. Tala pola varuma. That's the most important, sales. So this is the format of the cost sheet basically. In that, from sir there till here, we will be getting cost of production. What of production? Sir, from here to here, we will be getting from the cost of production to sales. Cost of production to sales. So actually, what is happening in an organization? In an organization, this is what actually happening. You know, raw material is converting into WIP. Raw material is converting into WIP is converting into finished goods. WIP is converting into this finished goods. We are incurring selling and distribution overhead, and this finished goods is become sales. That is, there is a movement of one item to another item. Sir, in a business, if you want to move one item to another item, you have to incur cost. You have to incur, because this is cost accounting. There is only one income called as sales. All the other thing, you are saying that direct material consumed. Yes, it is a cost incurred. Direct labor paid. Yes, cost incurred. Direct expenses. Yes, cost incurred. That means this much is my prime cost. Obviously, yes, this is the cost incurred. Add factory overhead. Inside the factory, I paid current bill. Yes, cost incurred. For the factory, I paid rent. Cost incurred. Yes, I am having depreciation on factory machinery. Yes, cost incurred. Sir, I have spent, this is the value of opening WIP. This is the value of closing WIP. Yes, cost incurred. Because in order to convert that into a WIP, I have to incur material, labor and overhead. Right, sir? Sir, administration overhead related to production. Yes, cost incurred. The name itself is what of production? Cost of production. Cost of production. Sir, this is not the cost which have not incurred in the current year, but has been incurred in the previous year. Even that should also be part of the cost of the current year, because in this current year only I am going to sell that product. Comfortable? Sir, this I am extra incurring general administration overhead and selling and distribution overhead. So ultimately I am reaching the cost of sales. That is the total cost I have incurred as a cost accountant. So let me ask you a question. If I don't record this many costs properly under the respective head, can I tabulate what is the total cost incurred? No. So as a cost accountant, it is my responsibility to record the cost incurred under the respective ledger. So first, what I should know, what cost I have incurred, where I have incurred, for what purpose I have incurred. Then I have to accommodate those costs under those respective area. That's what this chapter, that is cost accounting system, is teaching to us. They are saying that, sir, this many accounts, 11 accounts you are supposed to prepare under the costing. What are the 11 accounts? Stores ledger control account, number 1, which will represent the direct material, which will represent the, for all the material items, raw material, you have to maintain a separate ledger. For example, in accounts, if you are purchasing, you are debiting or crediting the purchases. Sir, for direct expenses, sir, you are debiting or crediting the direct expenses. For salary paid, you are having salary account. Rent paid, you are having rent account. The same way for the purchases and sales of stores ledger, for the direct material, basically material, you have to record all the material items in the stores ledger, what account? Control account. So there is a place now onwards, It is going to be a place called as, this is one place, man. This is called as your stores. I am going to tag here as stores. What is the name of this? Stores. Inside these stores, I am going to keep all the material, whether it is direct material or indirect material. So I may purchase, I may, sir, consume, I may, sir, issue the raw material, or I may get the return of the raw material. Hello, sir. For all that, I am going to write the journal entry. Sir, if I am having only raw material, you tell me, can I convert that into WIP? I need wages. I have to pay. So for whatever labor I am paying, whether it is direct labor or indirect labor, my dear lovable students, that has to be recorded in the wages control account. So all the transaction relating to material has to be recorded in one place. That is called as stores ledger control account. All the transaction relating to wages, labor has to be recorded in the wages control account. Right, sir? Now coming to the factory, inside factory, you will be having overheads. You will be having, that is called as production overhead. What overhead? All the production overhead related transaction should be accumulated under the production overhead control account. What control account? Production overhead control. So all the material related transaction, stores ledger control account. You have to think like the cost sheet. That's why I've written cost sheet, which is nothing but direct material plus direct labor plus direct expenses will give you prime cost. So up to this you have reached to prime cost. Add factory overhead. That factory overhead is otherwise called as production overhead. Right, sir? So all the transaction relating to material should be recorded in stores ledger control. All the labor related matters should be recorded in, all the factory related indirect expenses should be recorded in. Surely you will be having opening WIP and closing WIP. Because in cost sheet, sir, once you reach the gross factory cost, add opening stock of WIP less closing stock of WIP. That means for all the WIP adjustments, you have to maintain WIP control account. You have to maintain. Right, sir? Yes, sir? So all the raw material related transaction will be recorded in stores ledger control account. All the labor related matters will be recorded in wages control account. All the factory related expense will be recorded in production overhead control account. All the WIP stock adjustment will be happened in WIP control account. Right, sir? Sir, in factory, you will get the cost of production. You will get the add opening stock of what goods? You will get the COGAS. You will get the COGAS. From that COGAS, cost of goods available for sale, you have to reduce the closing stock of that finished goods stock. Finished goods stock adjustment has to be done under finished goods control account. Has to be done under. As we already know that, my dear lovable students, in accounts and all we have studied, there are three types of stock we are having under AS2. One type of stock is the raw material stock. Correct, sir? The another type of stock is the WIP stock. And third type of stock we are having is finished goods. All the raw material related matters should be recorded in the stores ledger control account. What ledger, man? Very comfortable. All the WIP related matters should be recorded in the WIP ledger control account. What control account? WIP ledger control account. Comfortable? All the finished goods related matters should be recorded in the finished goods ledger control account. Finished goods ledger. So all the raw material related matters should be recorded in stores ledger control account. WIP related matter, WIP ledger control account, finished goods matter, finished goods ledger control account. So I have reached here. Once I got the cost of production, I will add opening stock of finished goods. I will get the COGAS. From that I have to reduce the closing stock of finished goods. Then I will get cost of goods sold. To that cost of goods sold, I have to add general administration overhead. For that general administration overhead, I will use administration overhead control account. What control account? Then it will become what of sales, cost of sales, what of sales. Sir, in order to convert the cost of goods sold into cost of sales, I have to incur administration overhead control account and also selling and distribution overhead control account. Right, sir? So, all the transaction relating to administration overhead will be recorded in administration overhead control account. Selling and distribution overhead will be recorded in. So, surely there will be over absorption or under absorption. That over absorption or under absorption will be recorded in overhead adjustment account. What account? And finally, that over absorption or under absorption will be transferred to the costing P&L account. What P&L account? Sir, for each and every debit, there is a corresponding credit. If you are having a costing debit, there should be a corresponding. For that, I will use cost ledger adjustment account. What account? Or if you are having a corresponding credit, there should be a debit. That debit I will give to cost ledger adjustment account. Then only I can complete the double entry system. In order to complete the what entry system? I am using cost ledger adjustment account. Cost ledger, fine, fantastic to the core. According to me now, financial accounts are different and cost accounts are different. Financial accounting is different and cost accounting is different. In financial accounting, I will not record the transaction based upon the costing principle. There, raw material purchased, let it be there, purchases to cash or bank, purchases to creditor. But here it is not like that. It is like stores ledger control account. What ledger control account? Because all the transaction relating to raw material should be recorded in, because that is the cost center. That is the, because in costing, I have to record the cost based upon for which I have incurred the cost. Whether it is for labor, whether it is for material, whether it is for overhead. That overhead also I have to bifurcate as whether it is production overhead or administration overhead or selling overhead. In accounts, it's not like that. All overhead will be debited to P&L account. But in costing, it's not like that. Costing, I should know what are the overhead I have incurred at factory, what are the overhead I have incurred at admin, what are the overhead I have incurred at selling. Clarity. Because the factory overhead should be absorbed by the cost of production, whereas administration overhead should be absorbed by the finished goods. And sir, selling and distribution overhead should be absorbed by the cost of sales. Like that, one overhead has to be absorbed by one person. So in costing, I should know what cost I have incurred, what is the cost center, who are going to absorb that cost. So I'm going to discuss one by one. Transaction relating to material. One of the beautiful area available in costing is this chapter. Have you heard about raw material? Yes, sir. You are going to purchase a raw material. You are going to purchase a raw material. Purchasing the material. When you purchase the material, what will happen to the raw material in the stores? Raw material in the stores increases. Raw material in the stores increases. Is raw material WIP finished goods an asset? Is raw material WIP finished goods an asset? Yes, sir. When asset increases, my dear lovable students, we have to debit the asset. We have to. So when you purchase what material? Raw material, you have to debit which ledger? Stores ledger control account, because the raw material in the stores increases. Actually, stores ledger control account debit to cash or bank or to creditors. I should credit either cash or bank or creditors. But if I credit cash, if I credit bank, if I credit creditors, that means debit aspect I am following costing system. Whereas credit aspect I am following financial accounting system. Right, sir? But this method, what we are learning is non-integral. What integral? That means non means, sir, costing is different, financial accounting is different. I will not mix what and what, costing and financial accounting. That means I will not credit cash. I will not credit bank. I will not credit creditors. Debit and credit will be costing aspect. Sir, but you are having only stores ledger control account, which is what aspect? Costing aspect. But you don't have credit. For that only I will use the cost ledger control account. What ledger control account? So wherever I am having, in order to complete the double entry, I will use the cost ledger control account like a capital account. Hello? So if you purchase the raw material, what will happen to the raw material? Raw material in the source increases. What journal entry you will pass? Source ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account. Comfortable? Fantastic to the core. When you are purchasing raw material, my dear lovable students, you have to incur the direct expenses like freight, like cartage, like carriage. That's what the next one. On purchase and incurrence of carriage, inward expenses for what? Stock. As per AS2, how we are having in accounts, we are having AS2. The same way in cost accounting also we are having cost accounting standards. But that is not in the syllabus. Don't worry. As per that cost accounting standards, whatever direct cost you have incurred to purchase a raw material should be added to the value of the inventory itself. The same like what? S2. Nothing more, nothing less. So, if you incur any direct expenses, it will increases the stores ledger balance because the raw material are inside. So, what entry you will pass? Stores ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account, because I can't credit cash, I can't credit, or I can't credit. Because if I credit those three, it will become integral system of accounting. Integral means sacred. Costing you, accounts you. Right? Non-integral na costing where, accounts where. Now we are studying what? Hello? So, shall I say the transaction? Can you say the journal entry? On purchase of raw material, stores ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account. Right, sir? When you are purchasing, you have incurred carriage inward expenses. Source ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account. Right, sir? Sir, assume a situation where you have purchased raw material or incurred expenses like carriage inward for a particular job. Not you have not purchased generally, not to keep inside the stores. You have purchased the raw material to perform a particular job. Let me ask you a question. Where you will do the job? Factory. Have you completed the job? That means it will lead to WIP. So you should not debit source ledger control account. You have to debit WIP ledger control, and the corresponding credit will be costing credit, which is nothing but cost ledger control account. Shall I repeat the transaction? Can you say the journal entry? Purchase of material. Stores ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account. Participate along with me even if you are in your home. Right, sir? On purchase and incurrence of carriage inward expenses for stock. Stores ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account. Comfortable? On purchase and incurrence of carriage inward expenses for a specific job. Don't debit the source ledger control account. Debit the WIP ledger control account. So entry WIP ledger control account debit cost ledger control account. Now you tell me, in this stores you have purchased the raw material, right, sir? When you are purchasing the raw material, you have incurred expenses, right, sir? Now the raw material is inside the stores. What you will do with this raw material? கௌசல்யா சுப்ரஜா ராம பிரவர்த்த பூஜை பண்ணுவேன். எதுக்காக? ப்ரொடக்ஷனுக்காக. அப்ப நீ இந்த ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல இருந்து ரா மெட்டீரியலை இஷ்யூ பண்ணி ஆகணும். என்ன பண்ணி ஆகணும்? எங்கக்கு இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேனா? ஃபேக்டரிக்கு இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன். எங்கக்கு இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன்? ஃபேக்டரிக்கு இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன். ரைட்டா? அப்ப ஃபேக்டரியில மெட்டீரியல் என்ன ஆகும்? இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆகும். ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல மெட்டீரியல் என்ன ஆகும்? கம்மியாகும். Are you comfortable? Yes, sir. That's what we are going to talk about, the second action. What is happening inside the stores ledger control account? The first action is purchases. The second action is issue of material. Issue of, sir, from the stores ledger, you will issue the material either as direct material or as indirect material or as capital order. Or as what order? That means sometimes, sir, இந்த ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல இருந்து நீங்க எங்க அனுப்பும்போது, ஃபேக்டரிக்கு அனுப்பும்போது எதை அனுப்புவீங்க? மெட்டீரியல். அந்த மெட்டீரியல் மேபி டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல் ஆர் இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல் ஆர் கேபிட்டல் WIP. Capital. That means the material may be prime cost. Or sometimes if you are a factory, நீங்க வந்து இப்போ ஃபேக்டரிக்குள்ளதான் ஆக்சுவலா பிளான்ட் அண்ட் மிஷினரி இருக்கும். அந்த பிளான்ட் அண்ட் மிஷினரிக்கு இப்போ கிரீஸ் போடணும், ஆயில் போடணும், இல்ல பழைய துணி வச்சு துடைக்கணும். இதுவுமே எங்க தான் மெயின்டைன் பண்ணுவீங்கன்னா சோர்ஸ்ல தான் மெயின்டைன் பண்ணுவீங்க. சோர்ஸ்ல ஒரு ரா மெட்டீரியல் மட்டும் மெயின்டைன் பண்ண மாட்டீங்க. ஆல் மெட்டீரியல்ஸ் யூ வில் மெயின்டைன். கிளாரிட்டி? அப்போ 3 types of material can be issued from stores to the factory. அது either என்ன சார், டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா இருக்கலாம், இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா இருக்கலாம், கேபிட்டல் WIP இருக்கலாம். கேபிட்டல் WIP னா ஆல்ரெடி நீங்க ஒரு ஃபேக்டரி வச்சிருக்கீங்களா? one extra room you are constructing. For that extra room, sir, that room need cement, that room need iron rod, that room need some material which is the material which you are keeping in the stores. Understanding? So my dear lovable students, when you issue direct material for the purpose of production to the factory, what will happen to that direct material? It will become WIP. It will become, so it will reduce the raw material balance in the stores and it will increase the raw material balance in the factory. I don't have factory overhead control account. I am having production overhead control account. Production what? Overhead. Overhead means indirect, but I am talking about direct material. So I can't debit to production overhead control account. For that I will use WIP ledger control account. What ledger control account? What ledger control account? So the raw material stock in the factory increases, the value of the WIP increases, and the value of the stock in the stores ledger decreases. What journal entry you will pass? WIP ledger control account debit to stores ledger control account. Are you comfortable? Now from this stores you are issuing indirect material. What do you mean by indirect material? Indirect material in the sense means பழைய துணி, oil, grease, lubricants, which cannot be expressed as per unit. Which cannot be expressed as per unit. அதுதான் என்ன மெட்டீரியல்? இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல் சொல்றது இல்லையா? அந்த இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல் நம்ம எங்க தான் வச்சுப்போம்? ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல தான் வச்சுப்போம். கிளாரிட்டி பக்கா? அது எந்த டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கு அமிச்சேன்னு நீ பார்க்கணும். எந்த டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கு அமிச்சிருக்க? ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல இருந்து நீ ப்ரொடக்ஷன் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கு அமிச்சிருக்கியா? அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கு அமிச்சிருக்கியா? செல்லிங் அண்ட் டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூஷன் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கு அமிச்சிருக்கியா? சம்டைம்ஸ் ஸ்டோர்ஸுக்குள்ளதான் போட்டோஸ்டாட் பேப்பர் கூட வச்சிருப்பீங்க நீங்க. போட்டோஸ்டாட் பேப்பர் யார் யூஸ் பண்ணுவா? அப்போ போட்டோ காப்பி சார் பண்டில் அமிச்சு கொடுத்தாங்கன்னா ஃபேக்டரி டெபிட் பண்ண முடியாது. ஏன்னா ஃபேக்டரியில எது யூஸ் பண்ண மாட்டாங்க? போட்டோ காப்பி யூஸ் பண்ண மாட்டாங்க. எங்க தான் யூஸ் பண்ணுவாங்க? நான் சொல்ற புரியுதா ஒன்னால? எஸ் சார். செல்லிங் ரிலேட்டட் செல்லிங் டிபார்ட்மெண்டோட மெட்டீரியல்ஸும் மேபி எங்க தான் கீப் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க? ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல தான் கீப் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க. அப்போ ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல இருந்து இஷ்யூ பண்ணிட்டே இருப்பாங்க. அவங்க என்ன பார்ப்பாங்கன்னா அது டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா இல்ல இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல். இன்கேஸ் டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா இருந்தா எந்த லெட்ஜர்ல போய் உட்காரும்? WIP லெட்ஜர்ல போய் உட்காரும். ஆனா இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா இருந்தா again question arises, to which department you have incurred that cost, whether it is to the production department administration department. இது தெளிவா தெரிஞ்சாதான் உங்களால இந்த ஜனவரியில பாஸ் பண்ண முடியும். என்ன பண்ண முடியும்? பாஸ் பண்ண முடியும். என்ன பண்ண முடியும்? that is production department administration department selling and distribution department. எந்த டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கு இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல் கொடுக்கறாங்களோ அந்த டிபார்ட்மெண்டோட காஸ்ட் என்ன ஆகும்? இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆகும். நம்ம ஸ்டோர்ஸுக்குள்ள இருக்கிற மெட்டீரியலோட வேல்யூ கம்மியாகும். அப்ப நீ என்ன என்ட்ரி போடுவ? ப்ரொடக்ஷன் ஓவர்ஹெட் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட் டெபிட், administration overhead control account debit, selling and distribution overhead control account debit to stores ledger control account. Shall we check the entry? பாரு, production overhead control account debit, administration overhead control account debit, selling and distribution overhead control account debit to stores ledger control account. Are you getting the things logically? Super fantastic to the core. இப்போ யாரை பத்தி பேசிட்டு இருக்க? ஸ்டோர்ஸ் பத்தி பேசிட்டு இருக்கு. ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல ஆக்ஷன் நம்பர் 1 என்ன? நீ ஆக்ஷன் நம்பர் 1 பண்ணுவ பர்ச்சேசஸ். ஏன்னா பர்ச்சேஸே பண்ணாம இஷ்யூ பண்ண முடியாது. ஏன்னா வாயுல இருந்து இஷ்யூ பண்ண முடியாது. அப்ப முதல்ல என்ன பண்ணணும்? பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ணணும். ரைட் சார். ஐ ஹோப் தட் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் ஆர் ஏபிள் டு அப்ரிஷியேட் ஆர் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் ஃப்ரம் யுவர் ஹோம் எவ்ரிதிங் இஸ் கிளியர். இல்லைன்னா சொல்லு சப்புன்னு. கரெக்ட் சார். எஸ் சார். ஃபேண்டாஸ்டிக். So my dear lovable students, முதல்ல ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல நீ என்ன பண்ணுவேன்னா பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ணுவ. ஸ்டோர்ஸ்ல பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ணா என்ட்ரி என்ன? ஸ்டோர்ஸ் லெட்ஜர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட் டெபிட் டு காஸ்ட் லெட்ஜர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட். ரைட் சார். தென் சம்டைம்ஸ் அதை பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ணும்போது நீ டைரக்ட் எக்ஸ்பென்சஸ் இன்கர் பண்ணுவ. என்ன என்ட்ரி? ஸ்டோர்ஸ் லெட்ஜர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட் டெபிட் டு. சம்டைம்ஸ் நீ பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ண மெட்டீரியலை ஸ்டோர்ஸுக்கு எடுத்துட்டு வராம டைரக்டா ஃபேக்டரிக்கு எடுத்துட்டு போவேன். ஏன்னா அது ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் ஜாபுக்கானது. அப்ப என்ட்ரி என்ன? WIP லெட்ஜர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட் டெபிட் டு காஸ்ட் லெட்ஜர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட். கம்ஃபர்டபிள்? சூப்பர். இப்ப ஸ்டோர்ஸை பிக்சரைஸ் பண்ணு. ஸ்டோர்ஸுக்குள்ள என்ன இருக்கு? மெட்டீரியல் இருக்கு. அது டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல் கிடையாது, இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல் கிடையாது. என்ன இருக்கு? எல்லா மெட்டீரியலும் எங்க தான் வரும்? ஸ்டோர்ஸ் தான். அங்கிருந்து நான் பூஜை பண்றதுக்காக என்ன பண்ணல வாங்கல, நான் இஷ்யூ பண்றதுக்காக வாங்கினேன். நான் இஷ்யூ பண்ணாதான் கன்சம்ஷன் பண்ண முடியும். ரைட் சார். அது இஷ்யூ பண்ணும்போது ஐதர் நான் டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன், இல்ல இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன், இல்ல கேபிட்டல் WIP-யா நான் இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன். கிளாரிட்டி. இன்கேஸ் நான் டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா என்ன பண்றதா இருந்தா, இஷ்யூ பண்றதா இருந்தா, அந்த டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல் எங்க போய் உட்காரும்னா WIP லெட்ஜர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட்ல போய் உட்காரும். அப்ப WIP லெட்ஜரோட பேலன்ஸ் இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆகும், சோர்ஸ் லெட்ஜரோட பேலன்ஸ் கம்மியாகும். என்ன என்ட்ரி? WIP லெட்ஜர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட் டெபிட் டு சோர்ஸ் லெட்ஜர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட். என் கூட இருக்கியா? சூப்பர் சார். இதே நான் இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல், இன்டைரக்ட்னாலே ஓவர் ஹெட்னு மைண்ட்ல வரணும். ஓவர் ஹெட்னா எங்கேக்கு? டு வேர் யூ ஆர் இன்கரிங் த எக்ஸ்பென்சஸ், வெதர் இட் இஸ் டு ப்ரொடக்ஷனா, அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷனா, செல்லிங் அண்ட் டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூஷனா. ஓவர் ஹெட் சாப்டர் தெரியலனா பாஸ் பண்ண முடியாது எக்ஸாம்ல. அப்போ ஓவர் ஹெட் இஸ் ரிலேட்டட் வித் பாஸ். வாட் இஸ் பாஸ்? ப்ரொடக்ஷன் ஓவர் ஹெட், administration overhead, selling and distribution overhead. So to which department you have issued the cost? Based on that, you have to, sir, book the cost to the respective department. And the balance in the source ledger will reduce. What is the journal entry you will pass? Production overhead control account debit, administration overhead control account debit, selling and distribution overhead control account debit to source ledger control account. Clarity. Now, from the stores, I am sending bricks. From the stores, I am sending cement. From the stores, I am sending iron rods. Not for the purpose of production, but for the purpose of capital construction. But for the purpose of, have you completed the capital construction? That's why capital WIP control account. There are two budgeting, capital budgeting and working capital management. Capital budgeting means, sir, long term. So, capital WIP control account, tell me, capital WIP control account to stores ledger control account, to stores ledger control account, to stores ledger control account. Comfortable? That's it, man. First, you have, this is your stores, picturize, man, first ledger. This is your stores. Here you have the first action number 1. Purchased. You have done purchases. What is action number 2? Issue. Issue. Fine, sir. Super, sir. Now, direct material, indirect material, capital WIP is in various places of the organization. Sometimes you would have issued more. They will say that if we keep in the factory, the raw material will get destroyed. So whenever we want, at that time we will take it back. Please keep in where itself? Stores itself. For that purpose only we are having stores, to save custody of the raw material. At that time, they may return the goods. That's what the action number 3, man. Return of material. What of material? What of material? Return of material means, sir, on return from store to the supplier. Oh my God. That means the raw material is there inside the stores. That raw material is defective. This is not the raw material I have ordered. When I ordered tenga, they are giving manga. But you have to keep inside the stores. Take it back. I am returning. Hello. Yes, sir. What will happen to the creditor balance? What will happen to the creditor balance? When you return, when you purchase, return, what will happen? Decrease. So I have to debit the creditor. Not integrated. I can't debit the creditor. What is the aspect which I am using in costing? Cost ledger control account. So you have to reverse the original purchase entry. What is the original purchase entry? Source ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account. Now I have to debit the cost ledger control account. Clarity. And when I return the goods, the balance available in the stores reduces. Yes, sir. If that is the case, my dear lovable students, I have to credit the. So you tell me the entry, you tell me cost ledger control account debit to stores ledger control account. One of the finest chapter available. Yes, sir. From the stores, I have issued material which is direct, which are indirect, which are capital WIP. They may feel that excess stock I have issued, that much is not there for consumption. They may return that to the source. If that is the case, my dear lovable students, they will return back. Then automatically the balance, the raw material or material available in the stores and respective ledger cost will reduce us. Right, sir? So on return of what material? From production. Production is represented by which ledger? WIP ledger control account to stores. So which ledger should increase? Which ledger should decrease? Tell me the entry. Source ledger control account debit to WIP ledger control account. This is the difference between studying costing logically. Hello. On return of what material? To stores, my dear lovable students, automatically the balance available in the stores and the respective overhead account cost decreases. What is the respective overhead? Pass. Look at the laziness. Instead of writing individual credit ledger, they have written as respective overhead control account. You don't say like that. I don't like it. If you are saying the respective overhead control account, money knows that very well. Since you are in home, you are also knowing. Fantastic. Tell me, what is the entry you will pass? Stores ledger control account debit to production overhead control account to administration overhead control account. And on return from capital order, that means I issued for capital WIP. But they are saying that this much bricks are not required, this much iron are not required, this much steel are not required, this much water is not required. They are, sir, bringing back. What is the entry? Source ledger control account debit to capital WIP control account. Right, sir? Sometimes what they will do, you know, on transfer from one job to what? They will not bring to the source at all. Inside the factory itself, I would have issued the raw material for a particular job, basically job number 1 or job number A. But they have some excess material, they have transferred to job number N. So who received the material? Who, sir, lost the material? For that, whether I have to do any circus in the source ledger? No, because that circus is happening only inside the factory. So, no entry in control account, but following entry in WIP ledger and account. Transferee job account debit, the person who are receiving, to transfer our job, the person who are sending. Because the receiving person's cost will increase us and the sending person cost will decrease us. Very comfortable. We are talking about the first ledger, that is regarding the material. In that action number 1, purchases. Action number 2, action number 3, return. Hello? Now you will be having balance raw material or stock in the source ledger control account. What is happening to that balance? Recording of losses and gain. Sometimes that may lose. We are having normal loss. We are having abnormal loss. We are having process costing. Right, sir? Sir, loss of material abnormal. Sometimes what happened to the material, what you have kept inside stores, you know, that has been damaged, deteriorated, destroyed. Hello, sir. Then you tell me whether the balance available in the stores ledger increases or decreases. So you have to dash the stores ledger, credit the stores ledger, because the balance available in the stores ledger reduces. Sir, there will be 2 losses, normal loss and the cost of normal loss will be absorbed by the good units, whereas the cost of the abnormal loss will not be, should not be absorbed by the, why you have to absorb? Because you have not died, you have suicided. Are you remembering the example? So the cost of what loss will be absorbed by the, where the good units are producing. Factory. Factory means production. That means if the loss is a what loss, it should be taken care by the production overhead control account. Whereas if the loss is a, it should be debited to costing P&L account. What account? But a clarity le? Yes sir. So if the loss may be a normal loss or abnormal loss. Normal loss entry, production overhead control account debit to source ledger control account. Because if we debit in the production overhead control account cost increases. And it will be absorbed by the WIP control account. Clarity. Whereas if you charge the abnormal loss also to the production overhead control account, then even the cost of the abnormal loss also has to be absorbed by good units. That we don't want. That is a wrong costing approach. It should be transferred to the, that's okay sir, that's good sir, fantastic to the core sir. What happened to the store's gain? Abnormal gain. You tell me, abnormal gain, will you reduce us from the cost or will be credited to the costing P&L? Credited to the costing P&L. Right sir? But if there is a gain, the balance available in the store's ledger increases. Because actually we should have consumed 100 kg. But we have consumed only 90 kg and we have produced more than standard output. That means we will be having more balance in the store's ledger as compared to the ideal balance. Am I right? What entry you will pass? Store's ledger control account debit to costing P&L account, because this is a dash gain. Abnormal. The last one, miscellaneous cases, man. Payment to creditors for what? Material. You pay, don't pay, put it on. Because creditors to cash or bank should come. Debit aspect is financial aspect. Credit aspect is financial aspect. Both are financial aspect that we will not entertain at all under the non-integrated. We will entertain under the integral part. Are you all really with me? This is how your store's ledger control account will be. This is an asset account because raw material is a asset account. So you will be having, my dear lovable students, opening stock of what material? That's what to balance brought down. To balance. So the nature of store's ledger control account will be real account. Because all assets account are real account. Comfortable? To cost ledger control account, purchases. Can you say what is the journal entry for this? Store's ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account. என்ன நடந்திருக்கு? Transaction. This is the posting. I want transaction. Purchase பண்ணிருக்கீங்க. அப்போ opening stock இருக்குதுன்னா debit sideல opening stock of raw material add purchases of raw material. Comfortable. இதுல இருந்து தான் நான் என்ன பண்ணணும்? நான் என்னென்னவா இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன்? டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன், இன்டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியலா இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன், கேபிட்டல் WIP நான் இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவேன். ரைட்டா? பை WIP கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட் இஷ்யூ டு த வாட்? ப்ரொடக்ஷன். திஸ் இஸ் டைரக்ட் மெட்டீரியல். நான் இஷ்யூ பண்ணா பேலன்ஸ் அவைலபிள் இந்த ஸ்டோர்ஸ் என்ன ஆகணும்? அதனால தான் நான் கிரெடிட் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். ஏன்னா அசெட் கம்மியானா பை ப்ரொடக்ஷன் ஓவர்ஹெட் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கவுண்ட் issued for என்ன repair? By administration overhead control account issued to யாருக்கு? By selling and distribution overhead control account issued to selling and distribution office. Right sir? By capital WIP control account issued for என்ன order? By cost ledger control account என்ன claim? மேபி என் கையில் இருக்கிறது நாசமா போகன்னு இருக்கு, வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு. நாசமா போச்சுன்னா பேலன்ஸ் அவைலபிள் இந்த சோர்ஸ் லெட்ஜர் ரெடியூசஸ் பை காஸ்டிங் P&L account. என்ன லாஸ்? And surely if they return, all has to be what? Debited. Why I have not written debited? Na debit side என்ன இருக்கு, கிரெடிட் சைடுல என்ன இருக்குன்னு புரியாது. ஏன்னா ரெண்டுலையுமே திருப்பி இங்க 2 WIP கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கௌண்ட், 2 ப்ரொடக்ஷன் ஓவர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கௌண்ட், 2 அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் ஓவர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கௌண்ட், 2 செல்லிங் அண்ட் டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூஷன் ஓவர் கண்ட்ரோல் அக்கௌண்ட்னா அதை விட நான் என்ன சொல்றேன்னா ரிட்டர்ன் ஆச்சுன்னா பேலன்ஸ் அவைலபிள் இன் தி சோர்ஸ் will increases automatically have to debit the source ledger control account. By balance என்ன டவுன்? This is the what balance? Very comfortable. Are you able to appreciate or understand? You know one secret. Out of 11 ledger, we have completed one ledger called as source ledger control account. Like this, we have to complete 10 more ledger. If we complete 10 more ledger, we are done with the chapter called as integrated and non-integrated. That is one part, because this is what integrated. The same, we are having another part number 2 called as, since the cost accounting is different and the financial accounting is different, these two profit will not match as per marginal costing and absorption costing. So we have to do the reconciliation. That is the part number. So this chapter is classified into 3 categories. This is the introduction for this chapter. Number 1, integral, non-integral, and the first in that we are talking about the non-integral. That is costing and accounts are different. There we will use 11 ledger. The number 1 is stores ledger control account. In that stores ledger control account, we will be having action. Action number 1, purchases. Action number 2, issue. Action number 3, return. Action number 4, balance. With that balance, we may have either normal loss, we may have either abnormal loss, or we may have abnormal gain also. So before I give a break for your discussion, shall I quickly say the transaction? Can you quickly say the journal entry? Close your books. In the January, close your books. Yes, sir. On purchase of raw material, source ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account. Expense incurred while purchases, source ledger control account debit. Right. Expense, purchases and expense incurred for a particular job. WIP ledger control account debit to cost ledger control account. Now shall I talk about issue? Direct material, indirect material, capital WIP. Direct material, WIP ledger control account debit to source ledger control account. Indirect material, production overhead control account debit, administration overhead control account debit, selling and distribution overhead control account debit to source ledger control account. Capital order, capital WIP control account debit to source ledger control account. Shall we start returning? Sir, returning of the material purchase from the source directly to the supplier. Cost ledger control account debit to source ledger control account. From the production to the stores, source ledger control account debit. Indirect material to the source, source ledger control account debit to past ledger control account. Right, sir? Yes, sir. Capital order, source ledger control account debit to capital WIP control account. Right, sir? From one job inside the factory to the another job inside the factory. Transferee job account debit to transfer our job account. Comfortable? Normal loss, normal loss. Production overhead control account debit to stores ledger control account. Abnormal loss, costing P&L account debit. Right, sir? Abnormal gain, stores ledger control account debit to costing P&L account. Payment made to the creditor, no entry. Discount received from creditor, no entry. Sir, purchase return to creditor. Purchase return to creditor, no entry. Chappunu. Purchase return to creditor. Cost ledger control account debit to source ledger control account. Right? With this, out of 11 ledger, my dear lovable students, we have done with the first ledger called as source ledger control account. Those who are in home, those who are in live, I will not even take half the time what I take for material to explain the wages. Every ledger will substantially reduce the time, because I have said the introduction of this chapter. We'll give you a 15 minutes quick break, revise the stores ledger what account. And once we back, we can complete wages control account in one shot. That's it. You look at it, only 2 pages. And production overhead control account in another shot. Look at here. That's it with regard to production overhead. And WIP control account in one shot. That is a next 3 ledger in one shot. Comfortable? That too within 30 minutes of time, we can complete that 3 ledger. So those who are in home, have a revision. Those who are here, face to face, have a recall. I will continue after 15 minutes after a kutti commercial break.